So, going ahead and putting in these landforms to our continent here. Okay, remember you don't need all of these to get a 5, 6. It seems like this video paused while I was in the middle of recording. So, I'm going to explain some things that I did, and you just won't get to watch me do them. So, first of all, what I did is I started with, I don't know why that paused, that's a bummer. I started with my red, and I only did red first. I did all my red areas first, okay? I put in mountains here, I put in kind of curved mountains here to create a basin in the middle, and I put another red patch of mountains here, okay? So all I did was all my red areas first, my highest areas, and I didn't draw them in just a straight line. I didn't draw mountains like little triangles, that's not what we're doing, okay? We're just kind of shading, kind of making them look, just different areas have high lands. And I showed a few pictures. Okay, so here's kind of what one map would look like. So here's some high areas, and then the other areas have some yellow and some orange, but generally pretty low. Okay, here's some high areas along the edges, and then they have green. But you see that it's not just like, oh, straight line of red, right? It kind of looks like it's spread out a little bit. Okay, a little different. That's a political map, but same thing. Here's their physical map. So, they're just kind of different shapes. They're not just going to be perfect lines, that kind of thing. So I did all my red. Okay, then I did my black, and I made this little triangle. Again, sorry this wasn't recording, but this is how we show a mountain peak. And this isn't the actual peak of the mountain, but this is telling us it's the highest area in the continent. If I flip to one of those maps, probably should have just left one open, but if I flip to one of those maps that has a continent on it, these are all not continents, you'll see that they have this little black triangle. Now you might not be able to see it. I'm going to zoom in on it. Wait for it to focus. Alright, so there's that little black triangle, and it gives it a Mount McKinley. Okay, this is the highest place on this continent. And actually what these maps generally do too, you can see it right here, is the lowest place on the continent as well. Okay, now it doesn't label a bunch of different ones of these, it only labels the highest and the lowest. Okay, and you can see the low one is always pointing down. I know it's pointing south, but it's pointing down to show low. And the high one is pointing up, or north, because it's showing high. Okay, now it doesn't have, again, there are many other mountains in this area, and it doesn't have them all labeled. It only has the highest and the lowest. Okay, I'm not really concerned with the lowest, because we didn't really talk about what that means and all that stuff in our class, but if you want to have a mountain peak, this is what it would look like, and then I need to name that mountain. I also need to name the mountain range, I'll need to name these mountains, I'll need to name the basin. We're going to name all those things. We'll talk about that. Okay, so after I did my red and my mountain peak, I went and started shading the areas around the red yellow. It's not just a perfect following. Some places around the red are a little thinner yellow, some are much thicker, sometimes it just comes and spreads out here, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, my reservoir, I'm realizing, needs to be on like all the same level of land though, so I'm going to do the land around the reservoir as higher land because some of it was already in the highland. Before I did my green, I did my water. So I thought that probably rain between these mountains would form a river, and that river would come out over here. And I also said I'm going to name this my canyon. This is going to be a plateau. It's high land. It's going to be steep on one side. Not really much I have to do to that. Label it a plateau. Label this a canyon, and I've got a canyon inside of a plateau. I made a reservoir, I made another river inside of my basin, and this one I put a delta on. Remember that delta is just that triangular shaped river. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with everything that I have here. I don't think I need anything else. Maybe these mountains, pretty much all mountains have a river, so maybe these mountains need some sort of river that drains down. Okay, but maybe those rivers will be small enough that they don't need it to be labeled. But I'll just put a river there, and I'll give it a name later, and that's fine. And then I'm going to color the rest of my continent in green. The rest of this is going to be green. Now, I left some bigger open spaces. I didn't do a lot of yellow because I wanted a couple things. First of all, I wanted to have a plain. So, I can just name, like maybe I'll name this the Coastal Plains or something like that. I know those already exist in the United States, so that's okay. I can borrow some names for my continent too. I'm not making a real continent, I'm making my own fake continent. So maybe I want to have some plains there or some plains somewhere else, but you just need to have kind of those low lands that you plan on being pretty flat lands to be a plain. Okay. Another thing that I could have added was a valley. Now, I didn't really add a valley. Okay, I added a basin and those kinds of things, but a valley wouldn't have been hard. If, instead of a plateau here, I wanted this to get down to green, then it would be a low place between some mountains and would be a valley. Okay, I could also add some more if I wanted to add some red right here and have this get down low. Okay, it doesn't have to get all the way to green. I could even just call it a valley even if it's at yellow. This I just know is a plateau and less valley-like and more plateau-like. Okay, so I'm not going to add that, but I easily could have changed any of that to be that. Alright, I'm not going to color everything here while you're here just because I want to save your time and make sure that I have time to do the other stuff. But I am going to color a couple of these things and show you what my next and last steps are. So let me just finish up coloring this section right here. Okay. Alright, oh, maybe now's a good time. Actually, yeah, I'm going to pause and I'll color and then you'll see it again. So, hold on. Alright, a couple things I thought of to tell you while I was coloring here. First of all, make sure you don't forget to color your islands. You could have had higher lands on there. I could have added some yellow or even some red on there to show that there were some mountains on my islands, but I'm going to make those islands pretty flat. I just have hills or whatever is fine. You also never want your river to go any direction except for down of your colors, right? So my river is going to start at highlands and it ends at a lower color. Started at yellow, ended at green. Okay, this one starts at red and goes to yellow, then goes to green. But I sometimes see people do this, where they have like a river that goes from green to yellow to red. Like the river's not going to flow up and over the mountain, right? So it always has to go down. So this can be going down. Okay, now if it was like going here and then it went over here, right? If these two connected, that wouldn't make sense because the water has to flow uphill, and that just doesn't happen, obviously. Okay, so just make sure that you don't, like, if you go down to green, you don't go back to yellow. Or if you're on red and you go down to yellow, you don't go back to red. Okay, you always have to go down in your color here. Okay, so make sure that. The only other thing I would have to color is the water. Again, I'm just going to wait on that. But now I need to put in my labels. Now, you are only getting points for landforms that are labeled. So if they don't have a name, if they aren't labeled on here, I can't tell that you know what that is. Okay, so I'm going to go through here and give these things names. Okay, they might just be as simple as the Gulf of Thor, right? Or, let's see. Oh, Bucky was an Avenger. I'll do Bucky Bay. Okay, let's see. Fjord. Is there a Avenger that's an F? I'm sure there is, that I can't think of. But I'm just going to name it the Fightin' Fjord. Okay, I have my delta here. I have my archipelago. Okay. The archipelago kind of sounds like archer. An archer is somebody with a bow and arrow. So I'm going to go with Hawkeye Archipelago. Even though that might not make sense to you, it makes sense in my head, and that's all that really matters. So the Hawkeye Archipelago. Okay, what other things did I have on the outside here? Did I just do a gulf, a bay, a fjord? I feel like I had a bunch more on here that I can't remember right now. Oh, my peninsula. Captain America Peninsula. That doesn't really make any sense. I don't know. Just think of names for these things. I'll just do the Hulk Peninsula because why not? Okay. Oh, my Isthmus. Isthmus of Doom. That sounds fun. Okay, and I'm writing these neatly and nicely. I'm using a black colored pencil here. If you wanted to use like the black pen Sharpies would be good, or even just a pencil is totally fine. I just like that these stood out a little bit. So now I need to label my basin, my delta, my mountains, my mountain peak. I need to label all my rivers. Okay, so I'm kind of getting down to just labeling things. My reservoir. Okay, so I need to label all of my landforms. That's what you're getting scored on this, is your landforms. I'm only going to count the ones that you have labeled. So this would only be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and these 6 I think are all on the, not the advanced ones, the easy landforms. So this wouldn't be such a high grade on here. So I need to go back and label more landforms. Give them names. See how I'm giving me all these names? I didn't just write fjords. Okay, give them names. Have fun with it. Be creative. And you don't have to be super creative. If I wanted to use Thor every time, maybe I want to do the Thor Delta. Okay, I think it's fun to be creative, but you could do things like that and just totally make it however you want it to be. Okay, so that's all fine and dandy as well. And then I'm going to color my water, and I should be good. Now, a couple things is that, remember wherever my compass was on here, it's on this one. My title is in the same place. The other thing that should be in the same place is the name of the ocean. So I want to make sure to put Avengers Ocean in here, okay, in the same place. And then I'm going to go back, and I'm going to put all my rivers onto this map. Rivers are still on political maps. So now that I have my rivers on there, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to try to trace my rivers on here. It's going to be a little harder because these are colored, okay, but I can get close with those, and I can do my best to either put it up to my screen with my screen on. Okay, you can kind of lightly trace it while you're holding it up. You can see through it a little bit better. Sometimes these are a little trickier because they, because just of how they are on seeing through the color, and I get that. Okay, so if these are just close, and you just kind of generally are like, all right, well, there's like a river right here, and you're just kind of like looking back and forth and getting them close. I think that's fine for your rivers. Our borders really should match up pretty perfectly, but our rivers should be there. And then the rivers should be labeled on here, okay? And then you're really close to done. So there might be one more video. You can check back later this week and see if I have one more video of directions just to make sure that you finish up correctly and kind of just go over the rubric one more time. Probably will be one more video, so don't even stress about it. I'll make one more video. Just to, again, just make sure that everybody understands all the directions. We'll go over the rubric again and all that kind of stuff. So that is your physical map. That's kind of your job for today. This should be day 4 work, I believe. Okay, so get all that finished up. And yeah, as always, let me know if you have any questions, and hopefully you're following along with these. All right. Nice work, you guys.